And we move on to the first fight of the night. We've got Francis Marshall taking on Conor Matthews, and both guys are 5-0. Both guys are undefeated, fighting at featherweight here. Francis Marshall, I believe he was only 23 years old, and he's 5'9", taking on Conor Matthews, who is 30 years old. Now, Conor Matthews, his level of competition is a lot lower, in my opinion, than Francis Marshall. At least Francis Marshall has had some sort of test in his career. Like Conor Matthews, he's been fighting 0-7, 1-8, 2-1, 15-97, 1-2. Like, he's really only fought guys with losing records. And Francis Marshall, kind of the same story, but he beat a guy that was 4-0, beat a debuting guy, 3-2, 24-30, 7-6. Like, the level of competition ain't as good, but it's still not terrible, you know what I mean? Well, it's still not as bad as Conor Matthews anyway, but Conor Matthews, to his credit, has been beating these guys very quickly, very soundly. Every single one of his wins has been within the first round. And he's got heat in the hands, man. He's got heavy hands. He also looks for submissions as well, and he gets them most of the time. He's got a very powerful rear naked choke. Most of them coming within a minute. He submitted Rob Fuller in 57 seconds. Submitted Joshua Mara in 57 seconds. Submitted Josh Hardy, in 48 seconds. And he also had a pretty good amateur career as well. Like, all of his wins come in the first round, but when it comes out of the first round, that's kind of when he has struggled in the past. He lost to Jimmy Wilson in the second round, but prior to that, all of his wins and losses have been in the first round. Crazy to me. It actually is insane how fast this guy's fights actually finish, which is awesome, to be fair. So these guys should bring the heat. But Francis Marshall, on the other hand, I would say he's got a very more so wrestling style. He's definitely probably the better wrestler out of the two. And he also does take the back quite a bit as well with his wrestling. And I would say he's the better wrestler out of the two. Like, he debuted against a guy that was 4-0 and won by third round rear naked choke. Rear naked choked Chris Cantu in the first round. Rear naked choked Mike Taylor in the first round. He's beating guys that are a little bit higher level than Conor Matthews, in my opinion. I think in the striking, Conor Matthews has got this. I think that he is the better, the faster, more powerful striker for sure. But I do think the better grappler out of the two is Francis Marshall. And, maybe when it is on the mat, Conor Matthews will probably be throwing up submissions and trying to do things to end the fight. But I think Francis Marshall's just going to constantly come forward, use his wrestling. I think he's going to look for constant takedowns and push the fight up against the cage. So I will be picking and siding with Francis Marshall on this one here. I think that the fight potentially could go the distance. I mean, all of Francis Marshall's, or for the most part, wins have come very late in the fight, or there have been a decision. So I'm agreeing with the picks on Tabology here, going with Francis Marshall, going for him to win a decision here or a submission later on into the fight. In fact, I might actually side with more of the submission side or even a TKO side, because I think that Conor Matthews, he hasn't really spent any time out of the first round in his entire career, which, obviously he's training for that, but it just hasn't happened yet, and maybe he's just not quite prepared for it. And I think Francis Marshall's going to definitely survive the first round and take the fight into deep waters in the second and third. So give me Francis Marshall by a late finish or by decision, and that is my pick for that fight there.